Okay, so for my capstone, I worked with the Future of Hope cohort, and this is a group of high school students who learn about inner city work, and then they work on an 8-month project for the city of Knoxville. So the Future of Hope, their mission statement this year is to seek the peace, and its theme verse is Jeremiah 29:7-11, which is, "Seek the peace of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf in its welfare. For I know the plans that I have for you, and for your well-being and not for your harm, to give you a future and a hope." So the purpose statement for it that they handed out to us, it says that it provides high school students with a unique opportunity to engage their city by inspiring them to think theologically about the challenges of living in a contemporary urban context for 9 months. And for 9 months, youth are exposed to proven community leaders, career exploration, biblical reflection, cultural analysis, and community worship. This 9-month program, consists of a 7-day summer institute, followed by an 8-month community-based project. And so we got to have the opportunity to grow alongside other high school students my age, and we had mentors and local leaders in the community, and it was a real opportunity to mature in my faith. A lot of the expectations for this project, we were expected to go to the monthly meetings that we have, and we had a mid-semester retreat that we were supposed to go to. And then at the end, we come up with a project, and we give a final presentation on the project that we've come up after what we've learned from the week. And then all the rest are just guidelines that are made for us to respect the leaders and respect each other. And it was maintain positive attitude, remain engaged, participate, respect, act in a Christ-like manner, and communicate with mentors and the staff there. And I was impressed because there were a lot of times where I didn't think they would really enforce these rules, but they really and truly did. A few kids who didn't follow these actually faced consequences. So our schedule, this is for the week that we went on. It was a 7-day little, they called it immersion week, during the summer. Our schedule, it looked kind of like this. We would get up and eat, and then have theological training, and we'd learn from some college professors. And then when we were at Way Floyd Retreat Center. And so while we were there, we would get up and do team building activities and grow and learn about one another. And then we would have lunch, and then we would go on another trip to, as you see, we went to Carm, City Council, and then Park, and we went to a variety of places. And so after lunch, we would go do more of that or do more activities while we were at the retreat center. And then after that, we would come home, and we would go to church. We went to, I think, 4 different churches, and we had dinner, and we worshiped. And then after that, we would have fellowship activities, which that's just the churchy word for playing games. And then we would go to bed after a long day, and we'd prepare to do it again the next. While we were at Way Floyd, we stayed in cabins, and we worshiped and learned in a chapel. We got to play games and fellowship with one another and learn more about one another. And then we played a lot of basketball, and we prepared for the week ahead. I enjoyed it because I love the outdoors, and so we got to go on hikes and stuff. Even it was raining a couple days, but we still enjoyed it. Then after we left the retreat center, we went back to Knoxville, and we stayed in a hotel downtown so that we could remain immersed in the community. And so then from that hotel, we took different trips. And our first trip we took was to CAC Beardsley Community Farm, and that's an urban demonstration site, and it's promoted food security and sustainable urban agriculture through practice, education, and community outreach since 1998. They work with Mobile Meals, if you know what that is. It's a organization that helps get food to people who can't get it themselves. And so they work with them to transport food, and then they also seek to eliminate food deserts. And I got to learn what a food desert was while I worked with this group, because I had no clue, because I've never experienced anything like that. But Food deserts are areas found more in impoverished areas where there's a certain distance where the people who live there are unable to get to restaurants or grocery stores just because they're so far away. And so we went to the farm and we got to pick vegetables and learn about really the food situations downtown. The next place we went to was Carm, which a lot of people know about Carm with the different branches it has. But we went to the homeless shelter one downtown, not to distribute the thrift store. But Carm provides daily for the most vulnerable and desperate among us. They supply services to people who need it, those services being food and shelter. And then they seek to restore people back to their families, back to God, and back into the community. And as a group, we got to help the homeless. We handed out food, water, and I got to meet and talk to actually a lot of the homeless in here. There's a lot of cool stories from people who have been moving around their whole life. But it really gave me a better perspective on what the homeless was, because I've actually, in my life, I've seen a lot of homelessness, and I've always responded to it in a way that I probably shouldn't, but now I've learned their true stories behind it. Next, we got to get a chance to go to Knoxville City Council. We met Mayor O'Hara, and we talked to other city officials. We got to learn a lot about our city and how it works, and about the government behind it. It was interesting because we got to go to juvenile court, and so we learned a lot how the judicial system works here in Knoxville, especially with the younger kids in the inner city. And so we talked to Judge Irwin and learned he played for the Minnesota Vikings, which I thought that was pretty cool. And then we got to go actually to the Bean Center, which is Knoxville Juvenile Hall. And so we saw the situations, or the way that people live who are in juvenile hall, and it's very sad actually. We saw people there, and we walked through the cell blocks, and it just didn't. It was hard. It was hard to see for a lot of people. But after that, we went to the Chamber of Commerce, and we learned all about the statistics of poverty and people in Knoxville. We learned about the wages and their income and the struggles of the inner city. We also talked to members of PARC, and PARC is the Police Advisory and Review Committee, and they serve. It's like a group of people who seek to strengthen the relations between the citizens and the Knoxville Police Department. And their goal is to, what they do is they go through independent reviews of police action and to make sure everything is fair there. Next, we went to the Community Law Office, and this is a team of legal professionals and social workers, and they're very holistic and client-centered, and they provide legal representation that advocates for a fair and just process within the criminal justice system. We got to meet and talk to them, and basically we got to learn a lot about what the flaws in the system are and what's good and bad about it. And so that was very interesting to get a new perspective, because I had never talked to somebody who worked as a legal professional before. But we learned about how they help their clients, and especially when a criminal gets out of jail, or a newly freed criminal gets out of jail, how hard it is for them to be put back into society, even though it was just one mistake they made. And so it was hard to wrap my mind around, like, exactly how hard it was when you make one mistake, what can happen. Next, we visited the Restoration House, and this was interesting because I'm actually family friends with the owner of the Restoration House, the owner and founder, and so I've always known about it, and I've always I've always been able to see what they've been doing, but it was interesting to see it from a completely different point of view, because I've always seen it as he used to go to our church, and so it was just going to the Restoration House because it's a family friend, and we're just visiting and seeing how he's doing. But this was when I went, it was seeing somebody who needed help. And so I got to see what it was like. And so if you don't know what the Restoration House is, what they do, it's a recognized leader in serving single mothers and their children in Knoxville. This recognition is due to a commitment to remain a student of the best practices for helping single mother families. With the Restoration House Foundation, they work with other single mother organizations instead of making a whole new one. So they bring them all together so that it just fills in the gaps, because what they believe is that it's important not to have as many organizations, but as perfect as an organization as possible. So they work with a lot of single mothers, and they help them get back on their feet. My mentor for this project was Kenny Schubert. He's my youth minister, and he was also my mentor for the Future of Hope. And so I actually got to talk to him a lot, because youth ministry is something I'm thinking about going into. And so I've been talking to him a lot, because I know in Mr. Roberts' class we had to do a career paper, and he was the one I got to interview. So we've grown closer, and he knows a lot about ministry, and he knows a lot about the inner city. He grew up in Knoxville, and he's been and worked in the inner city before. So he's helped me through this project, because at times it was hard, and so I needed help to be able to be pushed through this. And so he was a very good mentor, and I learned a lot from him during this process. Why did I choose the Future of Hope? Well, the Future of Hope is sponsored by the Lilly Endowment, and this provides each participant with a scholarship after completion of the final project. The Future of Hope also works with Johnson University, and that's a college that's high on my list. And it's a Christian college, and we got to go to the college and stay and have a lot of the college professors come and talk to us, and that's how we got a lot of our theological training. Within the project, we also got to work in Knoxville, and that was important to me because I love the city of Knoxville, because I've grown up there my whole life, and I very much enjoyed living there. And so I wanted to be able to do something where I could stay in Knoxville, and this was it. And so I got to go deep into Knoxville and even get to places that I've never been before. And so I got to stay there and help a lot of the families in Knoxville. My expectations and fears for this project, going into this project, I was fearing judgment from others. I wasn't sure how people would react to me, since I was one of the only white people there, and I was one of the only people from West Knoxville, and I was the only person from a private school. So I was nervous about how people would react to me there. But I was excited to get the new perspective and see the side that I'd never really experienced before, but it did make me nervous, and it was genuinely, it was outside of my comfort zone. And but it got better as the week went on, and I made friends, and we had a good time. I didn't want to be uncomfortable, even though I know God calls us to places that aren't exactly the most comfortable. And I know that we were all different, even if it's based on my skin tone, home, views, and culture. But I got to learn a lot from this project. Impacts and takeaways. From this project, I learned a new perspective from the experience I've had, and a better understanding of why people believe what they believe. The inner city, after seeing the poverty and the evils, but I also got to see a lot of the culture and the good that was there. And after meeting with the Future of Hope team, I realized that it's very important that I come back and share my experiences with those here, so that people can understand viewing other perspectives and taking that into my own communities. Truly one of my favorite parts about this project was getting to getting the experience to go into the inner city and work, because I've never had that experience. I've never even thought about going into the inner city until this opportunity arose. But I did enjoy it very much. And I want to thank you for your time.